Tonight on our news weekend, 2 suicides in 2 days, the latest in Star States. Police say the 22-year-old's mother made the discovery. Plus, a lot more education is needed to get more Bahamians to embrace digital banking and into the cashless environment. An economist talks about the barriers and how we move forward. And later, a week of great food and entertainment served up at the Paradise Island Wine and Food Festival. Our Danielle Miller is in the midst of the action, and tonight she's got the highlights from the festival turned into a down-home party. Our news, the weekend edition, starts right now. Welcome to our news, the weekend edition. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Berthany McDermott. Police are investigating another suspected suicide, this time in Star Estates. Police tell us the 22-year-old man was found by his mother. As family members grieved, local pastors came by to offer support. Officer in charge of the Elizabeth Police Station, Chief Superintendent Marcus Sands Sr. telling us officers responded to the scene shortly after 4 p.m. Friday. He shared these additional details with us.
Officers responded. They met a male who appeared to be lifeless, hanging in the kitchen area of this home. At the rear of us, EMS was called in, and they pronounced the body lifeless.
This is the second alleged suicide this week. Wednesday night, another man was found hanging inside an apartment unit. Just last week, the Crisis Center reported a rise in calls to its suicide hotline, with men expressing feelings of hopelessness. Chief Superintendent Sands says these incidents are concerning to police.
We can't say as the cause of this particular one, but if it's something where persons have needs of some counseling, there are certainly places where they are available for persons, but this is a concerning situation for us.
And now to another story we're keeping an eye on. Amid a rise in chlamydia cases, National HIV, AIDS, and Infectious Disease Program Director Dr. Nakia Forbes says officials are noticing another disturbing trend, one that she warns could lead to a further increase in sexually transmitted infections.
We are seeing a sexual practice where there's a drop-off in people using condoms. And this is a matter of concern. It will cause an increase in STIs and HIV.
Dr. Forbes stressing that condoms are highly effective in preventing sexually transmitted infections. She shared the importance of proper condom use, as some STIs like syphilis can be transmitted through skin-to-skin contact.
Use condoms correctly and consistently throughout the sex act from beginning to end with water-based lubricants. And they're a highly effective way of preventing sexually transmitted infections.
Her warning comes as health officials reported an alarming increase in chlamydia cases in the month of February alone. The Bahamas recorded 131 cases, with the majority of them in New Providence. Women accounted for 76% of recorded cases, and according to Dr. Forbes, officials believe the triple-digit figure is an underrepresentation of the actual number of cases. Additionally, Dr. Forbes is urging the public to get tested regularly.
Early detection means early treatment. It makes a difference. And if you are eligible, consider HIV PrEP. So we've heard a lot about this. A reminder for those that have not heard about it before, it's a 1 pill a day HIV option for people who are most at risk for HIV to prevent HIV acquisition or getting HIV in simple language.
Dr. Forbes also reminded the public that government provides free condoms and lubricants.
So we have a clinic called the Comprehensive Clinic that is free of cost to the Bahamian public for doctors, nurses, prevention, HIV prevention, STI prevention, education, support for if the STI is HIV, for example, and we have that clinic, and condoms and lubricants are provided free of cost. There are also free condoms and lubricants in other health platforms, like, for example, the family planning clinics, for example.
Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville is shutting down claims by Free National Movement Chairman Dr. Dwayne Sands, who alleges the public healthcare system is experiencing medication shortages due to unpaid vendor bills. Sands claims that at least 2 major pharmaceutical vendors have stopped supplying the Public Hospitals Authority over outstanding payments, leading to the shortage of critical medications. The health minister, however, is rejecting these allegations, saying the claims are entirely false.
That is completely incorrect. We will always have issues with procurement processes. There are some private procurement groups that do not have the supply. Sometimes we find ourselves in a position where there's a fall in the flow of where medications get to the family islands. But as far as I am aware, we have medications in our system, but we do run short in certain elements of medications. But that doesn't change the fact that we are trying to ensure that Bahamians have access to these medications, and we intend to do our endeavor best to make sure that we provide the essential chronic non-communicable disease medications so that individuals who can't afford it can access it.
When asked if any vendors suspended their services, Darville said this.
To my knowledge, we are still receiving medications from all of our vendors. I didn't say there may not be some outstanding payments, but to my knowledge, we are at the table receiving medications from all of our vendors as far as I have been informed.
Well, years after Hurricane Dorian devastated parts of Abaco, the island is still struggling with a housing shortage. But according to Housing Minister Keith Bell, the government is looking to do something about it. Bell telling Our News the government is exploring multiple ways to provide homes for Abaconians. The Category 5 hurricane caused an estimated $1.487 billion in damage to the housing sector, leaving some 13,000 homes either severely damaged or destroyed in both Abaco and Grand Bahama. While the government has constructed homes on the island, the demand remains high. However, the housing minister provided this update on the government's plans.
We're going down to Abaco, I think, within the next month to present a number of homeowners with keys. We have also not only built homes, but we've also been developing lots down there in Abaco. And particularly, we have gotten significant portions of Crown land from the Minister of Land, which is being turned over to the Minister of Housing, the Ministry of Housing. What we've been doing is actually building out subdivisions down there. And so, for example, now we've been putting in infrastructure. And so we're about to commence the construction of about 20 homes in one area.
But that's not all. Bell says the government has several public-private partnership agreements to construct homes in private areas. Ultimately, he says the goal is to ensure the island is fully rebuilt.
We have just put in infrastructure. That is, it takes a long time to put in the water, the light, the roads. And so we've put down in a number of service lots. We have a lot of serviceable lots. And also, too, we are also looking at possibly selling lots as well. But we really want to construct homes on the lots that we have available.
And 1 week after, economist Gowan Bowe said it's not viable for commercial banks to return to the Family Islands. RF Holdings Limited President and CEO Michael Anderson is weighing in on the discussion. Family Islanders have long complained about banks leaving the islands. While acknowledging that traditional banks are costly, Anderson says there are opportunities for a return.
If you can set up a branch where you can go there and get a loan set up, you can go and provide other services. If you want to set up a deposit account or something like that, you can go and do it. But you may have to use another entity to transfer money in to set up your deposit, but it's not going to be a cash deposit. But if you need a card, if you need some sort of payment service, the banks will be able to afford you those services, okay? But they just won't be running branches in the traditional banking sense. So people think banks are where you go and you deposit your money and you pick up money and so on. That's not the new bank. The new bank is a branch looking like that, but it's people sitting there serving you. No cash.
Bowe is on record saying more education is needed on digital banking as the world continues to shift in that direction, adding that in the United States, less than 15% of transactions are done with cash. Anderson agrees there's a lot more education needed to move the digital banking platform forward, which is contributing to the difficult transition for some Bahamians to a cashless system.
It doesn't matter in a way. I think when you get used to a certain thing, that's what you want to do, and it's hard for you to change, particularly as, like, I'm an old guy, it's hard to change as you get older, to be honest, okay? So you don't suddenly decide you want something different. So I think as the young people come through, that change is coming. They're driving change more than the banks are driving change. So people are they're adapting themselves before, yeah? So by the time the banks have got all the new stuff, the people will be ready for it, okay? But not us old guys. Us old guys, it just takes some time.
When Our News Weekend returns, a major historical site is set to close for renovations. What does this mean for visitors and locals? We'll tell you straight ahead. And manifesting your dreams, the story of grief and triumph from a private chef who used the death of her father as motivation to dream big. That's coming up when Our News Weekend returns.
When the Bahamas took center stage at World Expo in Dubai 2022, we were there as thousands got up close and personal with our story, like the unprecedented devastation of Hurricane Dorian put center stage at Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Rwanda. We were there as the Prime Minister urged immediate action on climate change, an issue brought up months later at the historic 50th CARICOM meeting in the Bahamas. Because our news is everywhere, always there when it counts.
Fort Fincastle and the Water Tower are undergoing major renovations, forcing the site closed for the next 4 months. Antiquities, Monuments and Museums Corporation Director Don Cornish confirming the works are a continuation of a $3 million project initiated last May. They've gotten all stakeholders to agree to the temporary closure of the site in the interest of getting the work done on time.
This decision was made to ensure the safety of vendors and visitors, maximize the quality of our visitors' guest experiences, drive the economic benefits for our stakeholders, and mitigate any unnecessary cost overruns associated with construction and renovations. During this period, the vendors from the site will be relocated to Fort Charlotte. Tents have already been erected and provided for their accommodations.
Tour companies and other transportation partners have been encouraged to redirect their tours to Fort Charlotte. Cornish said an improved and enhanced Fort Fincastle will ensure the brand continues to positively impact locals and tourists. Cornish is also cautioning guests against visiting the Queen's Staircase during this time.
We want to discourage any kind of tours being directed towards the Queen's Staircase, even though the bathrooms will remain operational, simply because we are not certain whether or not that is going to adversely affect the persons who are going to be in that area. The contractors, foreman Mr. Finley, will share the details, but the insurance requirement is that there is a perimeter fence, and for safety as well.
Ash Wednesday began 40 days of fasting, prayer, and almsgiving known as Lent in the Catholic Church. The season finds its origin in the scripture where Jesus went to the desert for 40 days and 40 nights after being baptized to prepare himself for his ministry and mission. Parish priest for Sacred Heart Catholic Church, Father Devereaux King, shares the significance of Lent for their denomination.
Lent is a time to get away from the busyness of the world, the everydayness of life, and coming to that spiritual realm with the Lord in prayer and fasting away not just from food, but also the things that take up a lot of our time with God, and really being sorry for our sins, coming to the Lord and recognizing that without him we are nothing, we are wicked, and we need his grace.
King shares what Catholics look forward to at the end of the 40-day journey, Easter.
After we have recognized our sins, we have fasted from the ways of the world, that we are made new. And that is the whole reason for celebrating Lent. We can't have the tomb unless we have the cross. You know, we can't have the garden but with springs and fountains unless we go through the desert. And so that is the real significance of why Lent is so important to us. It's all renewal, renewing ourselves, going back to where we once came from, so that we can move forward again in the journey towards Christ.
The loss of a loved one is not easy and something you never get over. You either let it consume you or use the memories as a source of inspiration to live. Tonight, our Danielle Miller speaks to a young woman who struggled with finding her strength after losing her father and is now living a life one could only dream of.
Pursuing a career as a solo chef has been an up and down battle of mine for the past few years. In addition to that, I've always wanted to be a full-time content creator. A year ago, I was still grieving the loss of my father, and I had no idea what I was going to do.
This is how I met Ariana McCartney. In a moment of vulnerability, she shared her story of grief and triumph with the world. I chatted with Ariana, eager to understand how she battled through the roller coaster of emotions she was experiencing at the time in her life and relentlessly pursue her passion. Her response was solitude, prayer, leaning on her mother, and the ideology her father instilled in her during his time on earth.
My mom and my dad were my biggest cheerleaders. And so my dad was always a believer in going after what you want and following your dreams and your passions. So my dad, for me, was always that person to say, hey, even if you feel like it's not working, you have to keep doing it because this is who you are. This is what you love. And so at some point, something is going to come out of it that's really good just because this is what God put you here to do and this is what you love to do.
With her father's words, she persevered. And as it turns out, his words manifested as Ariana met MLB player Jazz Chisholm Jr. in a casual outing with friends. She says Jazz, who was looking for a personal chef at the time, told her, "You have to come and cook for me," a request he followed through on, which instantly led to her becoming his personal chef.
My dad used to tell me, he would say, God will give you all the desires of your heart. All you have to do is submit to him. And so he's like, you submit to God and everything you want, you'll be able to have. And so I sat on everything that I actually wanted, and I didn't believe that any part of it was unattainable.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Danielle Miller.
Thanks, Danielle. Still to come on Our News Weekend, we head back to Paradise Island, where our Danielle Miller brings us a full recap of the Nassau Paradise Island Wine and Food Festival. From fine wines to gourmet dishes, we've got the delicious details. But first,
elite swimmers get one last shot to make the Carifta team. We'll talk about it next on Our Sports Weekend.
When the Bahamas took center stage at World Expo in Dubai 2022, we were there as thousands got up close and personal with our story, like the unprecedented devastation of Hurricane Dorian put center stage at Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Rwanda. We were there as the Prime Minister urged immediate action on climate change, an issue brought up months later at the historic 50th CARICOM meeting in the Bahamas. Because our news is everywhere, always there when it counts.
Good evening, welcome to Our Sports Weekend. I'm Tej Adderley. The Bahamas Aquatics Federation's last chance meet began last night, giving our elite swimmers one more opportunity to make this year's Carifta team. Our Sasha Lightburn was poolside and she filed this report.
Swimmers from various clubs throughout the country made their way to the Betty Kelly Kenning Aquatic Center Friday night and again this morning for Bahamas Aquatics last chance meet before the Carifta Games. For session 1, races included the 100-meter fly, 200-meter breast, 50-meter back, and the 400-meter IM. I spoke to President of Bahamas Aquatics Federation, Algernon Cargill, following the first session.
We've seen some excellent swims, particularly in the 11-12 girls and the breaststroke events. Bahamas has historically been very strong on breaststroke, and we've seen that tonight. Ayrton Bunker, he had an outstanding swim in the 100-meter butterfly, and he moved to first place in the 100-meter butterfly. So we've seen some swimmers who really saved their best for the last chance meet. And it's going to make the team selection process very difficult.
Team Bahamas is looking to win their 7th consecutive Carifta Championship in Trinidad and Tobago over the Easter weekend, but it won't be easy.
The Bahamas are going to give Trinidad a fight, a run for our money. We've won Carifta 6 times in a row, and we definitely won the 7P. And Trinidad is the host country. They have some advantages of being the home team. They have the majority of officials on the deck. They also have the home pool advantage. Our athletes will have an hour-plus ride to the pool every day. But there are some disadvantages. Nonetheless, the coaching staff will prepare our athletes, and we're confident that we will be able to go to Trinidad and win again.
And as for the remainder of the meet, which ends tonight, here's what Cargill had to say.
I know that everyone is putting their best in the water, and hopefully the team we select is going to go to Trinidad and win. We don't know what's going to happen until the athletes swim.
Now, the meet should be wrapping up at this time. It is expected that the team will be named tomorrow. Reporting for Our Sports, I'm Sasha Lightborn. Back to you, Tej.
Thank you, Sasha. The meet concludes this evening, and as Sasha said, the Carifta team's final roster will be published tomorrow. You can look to our socials for that list. Now we're going from the pool to the hardwood to see what Bahamians did last night. Klay Thompson struggled last night, going 2 for 16 from the floor as his Dallas Mavericks fell to in-state rival Houston 133-96. In college, Dayton Aubrey and his Utah State Aggies fell in the Mountain West semifinal to Colorado State 83-72. He had 9 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists. This is probably not the end of the road for Dayton and the Aggies. They've had an outstanding year, going 26-7, including a 15-5 conference record. They'll wait to see which tournament they get into. Tonight, Buddy Hield and the Warriors will shoot for 7 straight against the New York Knicks. That game is in the Garden. You know Steph always has fun there. And Fred King and the Creighton Blue Jays are in the Big East Final. They should be finishing up against St. John's right now. Now, before we go, the Junkanoo boys are in the CONCACAF Beach Soccer Cup semifinal. That match starts in a couple minutes. If they win, they're in the World Cup. This is not a drill, ladies and gentlemen. They need all the support they can get at the Beach Soccer Stadium at the Sir Sidney Poitier Bridge. You still have time to get your cowbells and drums and get out there to cheer as loud as you can. And the best part, admission is free. We'll have all the highlights tomorrow. That is a wrap for sports this evening. For our sports weekend, I'm Tej Adderley.
Thanks, Tej. Well, still to come on our news weekend, we've got the sights and sounds from the down-home party at the Nassau Wine and Food Festival. Our Daniel Miller has the story when our news weekend returns.
When the Bahamas took center stage at World Expo in Dubai 2022, we were there as thousands got up close and personal with our story, like the unprecedented devastation of Hurricane Dorian put center stage at Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Rwanda. We were there as the Prime Minister urged immediate action on climate change, an issue brought up months later at the historic 50th CARICOM meeting in the Bahamas. Because our news is everywhere, always there when it counts.
Welcome back to our news weekend. Clear skies outside the Our News studios this evening. Meteorologist Ian McKinsey has the weekend forecast.
Thanks, Berthany, and good evening, Bahamas. Welcome to your Saturday evening forecast. Currently outside our studios, we're under mostly clear skies. Temperature 78, feels like at 75. Winds are from the east-northeast at 10 miles per hour. Across the country at this time in our nation's second city, Freeport, we have 77. Also in Great Abaco and in Nicholstown, 78 in Allenstown, the capital, and in Governor's Harbor, Eleuthera, 76 in Marsh Harbor, Abaco. Central Bahamas, we have 78 in Camps Bay as well as Georgetown, a pair of 77s in Arthurstown, and in Deadman's Key, Long Island, 76 in Coburn Town, San Salvador. Southeast Bahamas, we have 78 in Duncantown, as well as Providenciales, Turks and Caicos. We have a trios of 77s in Colonel Hill, Delectable Bay, and in Abrahams Bay, Mayaguana. 80 is the hotspot in the Southeast Bahamas at Matthewtown in Agua. Looking now at our satellite and radar imagery, where we have a broad area of high pressure across us. This is expected to slide towards the east. Stiff winds across us right now, but this should all slacken in response to an active cold front that's ripping up portions of the Gulf states, should make its way towards Florida and eventually into the extreme northwest Bahamas, where it could pose some severe warning risk around Monday. This area now, if any of you guys are traveling, this should pose some delays along the eastern seaboard. And we're looking at Sunday, possibly even into early Monday for some delays from those severe thunderstorms that we've been hearing about across the Oklahoma and the Midwest area. Boating forecasts across our area in the northwest Bahamas. Small craft should use caution. Risk of rip currents for you swimmers. Wind southeast to south 15 to 20 knot, seas 4 to 6 feet. High tide at 9:43 p.m. Low tide at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. Central and southeast Bahamas, still a caution out there for you boaters. Small risk of rip currents for you swimmers. Winds will be east to southeast 15 to 20, seas 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Winds expected to begin gradually subsiding tomorrow. Extended forecast, we still have a warm conditions expected towards tomorrow into Monday. Expect some showers courtesy of that front. Gradually clearing, expect the next front to push through us late Thursday into Friday. That should keep things on the cool side. Expect those highs getting into the upper 70s, low 80s, with your lows bouncing around the upper 60s, low 70s. That's a wrap in the evening forecast. Make it a great, safe, fun night, everyone.
Thanks, Ian. Have you been enjoying our coverage of the Nassau Paradise Island Festival this week? Well, in our final story tonight, the recap continues with Friday night's event that turned into a down-home party. Daniel Miller has the highlights.
Thousands have come to Nassau Paradise Island Wine and Food Festival, the Mecca this weekend for all things fun, entertainment, and to taste paradise.
Hosted by multi-award-winning chef Bobby Flay, Friday night marked the second of 3 marquee events, kicking off with the sounds of Shad Cawley and the VIP band. Guests enjoyed traditional conch salad, an array of seafood dishes, and chuckled with friends over a cup of spirits or seltzers. The night, purposely crafted to highlight Bahamian culture.
Tonight at a Taste of Paradise, we having a down-home party. We going back in the bush, and let me show you how.
And I love the diversity, the food, the Bahamian flavors. I mean, what's not to like?
Now you said Bahamian flavors. Let me see you do a Bahamian dance move right now. Now I have somebody who I know from Twitter. This is my first time meeting her. Now, what brings you to the food festival?
Food. And you can't see this right now, but Bobby Flay is right over there. And I am so excited. So definitely meeting the chefs is a top tier event. So if you've been watching Food Network and you know the chefs, 10 out of 10 event. And I didn't even start to talk about the entertainment, the food, the drinks. 10 out of 10.
Now KB is performing tonight. And when I start, you finish. I'm a boatman.
A seaman. My work is on the water. Free diving. Thrown out line is how I survive.
When it comes, we give the best we can, and we stand up to any entertainer that's worldwide. Once you give us the stage, you give us the same lighting, the same smokes, and the same. We'll rock it. Believe it, I fear no entertainer in the world. Maybe Chris Brown.
Shake that booty down. You're screaming like a banshee.
We having a down home party and rum can't done in here. We having a down home party and bam bam everywhere. We having a down home party and rum can't done in here. We having a down home party.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Danielle Miller.
Thanks, Danielle. Well, that sure seems like a lot of fun. Well, thank you for joining us for Our News tonight on behalf of the entire team. I'm Berthany McDermott. Make it a great weekend, everyone.
Hey guys, Megan Shepherd here. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. Just click right over here. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so you stay up to date with content like this from the team you already trust.